What's up, BattleTech fans? Travis from Renegade HPG here. Got something fun in the mail. I wanted to open it up and figured I'd make a little video and share it with you guys. If you've been following along with the channel, you know that I am a big fan of the old BattleTech CCG, and I've been doing a ton of work kind of making my own cards. And I've gotten some kind of smaller print samples in to kind of check it out, but I just made a big order kind of all my 3025 stuff recently, and that just came in the mail today. See that there? So I figured it'd be fun to kind of open that up with you guys, do a little unboxing video of something I made for myself, and let you guys kind of follow along and enjoy. Now, I have offered to give one of these cards away, the Warhammer, and so if you follow me on Patreon, I announce that there. Though even if you don't support on Patreon, I'm happy to kind of send a card. Just go ahead and make sure you follow me on kind of Facebook, Twitter, whatnot. I'm not giving away the Warhammer again, but there'll definitely be kind of other cards that I might kind of offer just as a thank you for people that are following the channel, and definitely a thank you for people that are supporting me on Patreon. But yeah, so that's it. Let's go ahead inside. Let's open up this box and let's see how all these cards look. And here we go. So we got a nice thick stack of cards. I'm thinking maybe it might be prudent to split this video up into multiple parts. So in this particular print run, there are, I believe, 509 cards I think were in there. So lots of duplicates. This was definitely meant to make several sets and make sure I had enough cards to kind of spread out and do a couple different factions. But that would take forever. So I'll go ahead and split this up. Let's go ahead and we'll do, let's say, the TRO 3025 Light Mechs in this video. And then if there's good response, you guys are enjoying it, then we can kind of dive into medium, heavy, and assault mechs as well. But yeah, so let's go ahead and dive in. Light Mechs from TRO 3025. All right, first up here, we have the Bug Mechs. All right, so those classic unseen, and the Locust kind of leads it out. So that old Crusher Joe design. This art is by Florian Mellies, aka Spooky. Spooky has a great little Patreon. Hop on there, support his work. His art has made it onto a lot of my custom cards, and I also did a podcast with Florian that you should definitely check out as well if you're interested in kind of hearing me talk to the artist. But here we go. We have the Locust fast mech. Not a ton of fast mechs in that 3025 era, maybe like 6 or 7 if I'm recalling correctly. So that speed, definitely has a tactical advantage in the game. Kicking up at 1-2 for the armor in the original game. Usually that was based on the tonnage. So the heavier the mech, the more armor it had. For my own interpretation of it, I essentially went with the center torso protection on the mech, and so it got 1 armor for every multiple of 10 in that center torso location. And the Locust, I think, just caps out at that 10, so it benefits from a 1-2 armor structure, and then that 1 damage from medium laser, and then an AP from the machine guns, and a free deploy. So you can kind of put this out on the table without it counting against your 3 max deploy for that time frame. We have the Wasp, all right, Wasp 1A. And so 0 deploy, no buyouts, not too many of these that I've included in the game just because they are kind of a slippery slope in competitive play whenever you have a 0 cost mech. But that is the way the kind of costing works out. So 0 on this, 0-3. So unlike the Locust, it does not have 10 armor protection, that center torso, so it did not benefit from that armor. It does get a free deploy, and you'll notice little new keyword there, cool jump. And so that's something I added as a keyword because there are a lot of units in the game that can fire all of their weapons and jump without incurring any heat buildup, and the Wasp is one of them. And so I added that cool jump as a special kind of jump ability where you can get that +1 initiative without incurring that -1 attack penalty. So something fun to add in there, give you a chance to get a little bit better positioning in battle, and you can also still target that mech with cool effects like that risky combat jump. Next up is its counterpart, the Stinger. And so the Stinger almost identical to the Wasp, but slightly better. So you see it has that AP. There was honestly, without adding buyouts, which I didn't think were appropriate for these mechs, given how ubiquitous they were and how easy to get out. The Stinger just in the card game simply had a little bit better option with those machine guns as opposed to that SRM. So it has the AP. Definitely, if you are playing in the game, you'll want to take the Stingers before you take any Wasps. But if you have any reason to take more than 4, 4 being the max of any mech in my own home game, I don't recommend the 6, and I designed around that kind of 4 max. But if you want 6 of them, you can toss in a couple Wasps and kind of get a similar thing without that AP. All right, and then next up is the Commando, and so definitely a glass cannon here. It's got that 0-3 armor, same as the Wasp and Stinger, but a massive attack at 3 for that 1 deployment. You do have a medium speed, all right, so you lose the fast of the Locust, and then you lose the free deploy and the jumping ability that you had on the Stinger and Wasp. But yeah, Commando, solid unit, Steiner only. But yeah, some great art there by Andrea Frank, it looks like. Yeah, that was definitely one of the old source books. I can't remember off the top of my head which one that cover art is from, but yeah, cool little picture of the Commando there. All right, next up we have the Javelin. So a little bit of a balance then between the Commando and that Wasp Stinger. So up to 2 from the Wasp Stinger, down from 3 on the Commando, but you are adding that free deploy and jump. But you are paying a little bit extra in the buyouts. It is a 1M, 12 SRM, so it's a munitions only loadout, which is why I kind of added that M buyout in there. But yeah, so we got the Javelin following up on the previous 4. And next up, this is a favorite of mine on the tabletop. Definitely make sure you use it in its intended role to scout, recon, do not engage, but we have the Spider. All right, so some great art there. I think it's Interstellar Expedition, something like that. One of those old source books, but some pretty cool art there by Mike Molnar. And yeah, so we get the Spider, another fast mech. Again, there's not too many fast mechs in that 3025 era. It does have jump, it does have free deploy, and I added a little bit of flavor text there to kind of represent the Spider in the main game, in that the Spider 5V actually does not have an ejection system. And so I add a little bit of game text in there so that if you did put a pilot on this mech and it was destroyed, that pilot actually gets removed from the game rather than to the scrap heap, which can, depending on what cards you have in play, something like a Black Market Connections may kind of more be appropriate to a hospital rather than a scrap heap for the pilots. But no, if your Spider gets destroyed with a pilot, that pilot is removed from the game. And then you can also see up here that R that I put down by the Spider. And so I talked before about how I cap the individual mechs at 4. So you can have 4 copies of each in your deck with my customs. That R actually limits you to 2. All right, so the R is for restricted. I did this for mechs that are just fairly uncommon within the universe, and the Spider is one of them. And so not a lot left out there. Made it restricted, so you can only have 2 of these in your deck at any given time. But yeah, there's the Spider. And next up, we have the fan favorite. We have that UrbanMech, all right? So using Luce's artwork out there, there's not a ton of kind of colored UrbanMech art. You know, Bishop is a huge UrbanMech fan, as anybody on the Facebook group knows. But Bishop only does black and white line art, so there's just not a ton of color stuff. And I do have other UrbanMechs, later variants that use Bishop's artwork, but I really like that original Luce line art, and so wanted to put that on this this R60 UrbanMech. This is the third of the 3 zero cost mechs. It does have that 1M buyout, as its primary weapon is an autocannon. And yeah, you see also, here's another thing that I've done custom. I've added that extra slow speed range, and I've actually had an extra fast for some of the mechs once we get into that clan invasion era. But I don't care for that dash ability. I think it really kind of skews how the game is played, and I don't think it's really appropriate based on just what I would have done myself had I been designing the game at the time. And so I think they maybe just didn't plan far enough ahead. I don't know what it was, but yeah. So there is no dash ability where you can basically kind of skip right into your patrol region when you reveal a card in my customs. You simply have an extra fast range band, which means that you are faster than fast mechs, and you can only get blocked by mechs that are basically guarding the target. But on the other side, mechs like the UrbanMech, the Annihilator, I think, basically were only allowed to block if they were defending. Instead of adding all that kind of ponderous game text, I just made them extra slow with that range band, and then continuing on as normal with the rest of the design. So with this mech, I do have a little bit of game text there to make it a little bit stronger when it is guarding in its intended role. So it does get an Alpha Strike +1 when you're guarding, but otherwise, zero cost. If you're gonna, use it, you're gonna have to Alpha Strike it. It does have that cool jump, so you do get a little bit of extra initiative, and that's assuming that you're defending from the city, and so the lay of the land, and so a little bit of thematic kind of flavor there. And then you have free deploy, and unique to this card is the resupply, and so that is something that I added, where essentially once you reveal this card, you can draw another card. And that is limited to once per turn, so you can't just keep popping out UrbanMechs and drawing more cards. But yeah, so that's just a custom house rule game rule for my custom set there. And let me get that into focus for you guys. I realized I was a little bit out, but yeah. So there we go. There's the UrbanMech. And next up, the Valkyrie. This is actually one of my favorite mechs. I love this line art by Loose, and there's interestingly, I couldn't find any Valkyrie art out there, fan art out there, and so I just had to go with the kind of line art from the TROs on my customs, and the QA came with Loose's art. I happen to love this. This was definitely one of my favorites when I was a teen. There's just something about that line art that I really enjoy. I like it. And then for the mech, you basically just got a little augmented Wasp there. So a little bit more armor, 1-4 as opposed to 0-3. Still have that 1 damage from that 1 medium laser, but you do have that missile 1 from those LRM-10s. And then you have a jump. It's not a cool jump, it's just a regular jump. And you have your M for your speed. But yeah, so going from 0 to 1, get a little bit extra armor protection. You have a missile, and you lose that cool jump. But yeah, there's the Valkyrie. All right, moving on. Thanks to Mr. Alex Iglesias, which I've been fortunate enough to have on several of my podcasts. The last one, unfortunately, the audio wasn't that great, but my one-on-one with Alex was a very fun conversation, so definitely check that out. But here we have the Firestarter. This was actually a really fun mech for me to design, and so you'll see a lot of kind of interesting things here in the overheats, really taking advantage of those flamers. And so flamers deal just a lot of damage to kind of infantries and facilities, and so really dealing out a lot of AP damage from this mech. Some of it you have to overheat for, so you have your AP1, and then you can get your overheat 2 for AP4. Maybe I should say that AP is +4 instead of 4 in terms of how I actually write out this card, but that's for something for me to think about later. That CQC, I don't think we've had that yet, so CQC is another keyword that I've added. It stands for Close Quarter Combat, and it is meant for damage that can only be applied to mechs of the same speed or slower. And so generally any weapons that were range 6 as a maximum range and below, certainly flamers and small lasers fall into that range. I would generally plug into that CQC keyword so that this Firestarter can't be kind of chasing around, a Locust applying that flamer or machine gun damage to it. It definitely limits it to mechs of the same speed or slower. So yeah, just a way to kind of give a little bit more flavor, represent that mech better. But yeah, you got that 1 base, 1 T. This is another restricted mech. Firestarters in the lore really only deployed on the battalion level, and so you just don't see a lot of them. Certainly not doing a lance full of them. So yeah, it's restricted, and yeah, fun mech to play. Definitely does a lot of damage if you're hitting a support card. So going after it for 6, and then you kind of bring one other mech in and deal that extra 1 to tap it out. All right, moving on. We have the Dragon's favorite. We have the Jenner here. All right, so this is Kurita Rasselhog. I think most of them so far, other than the Commando, were Inner Sphere, but this one is a little bit more narrowed down. We have another one of those fast mechs. High damage output here. This is the most expensive of the lightweight mechs that we've gotten so far because of that high damage output, but we have 2 overheat, 2+2, and a jump with a 1-3 armor. So if you compare this to something like the Centurion in the original game, so similar. So you're essentially getting that extra speed and paying for it with your armor, and then you're paying a little bit extra in your base cost for getting jump and that overheat as opposed to Alpha Strike. So definitely better in a lot of respects than the Centurion D from the original card game, but One thing I will note is I do not mix my custom cards with cards from the original game. So they only play against each other, so there's a lot more consistency, so I don't have to worry about kind of my custom formula breaking the way things were done in the original game. But yeah, that's a Jenner. Solid card. Oddly, there's not a lot of fan art of the Jenner. There's one by Florian, but that Jenner very clearly has a Dabian logo or crest on it, and so not very appropriate for a card that was for Kurita. And Razahog actually made basically a variant of the Jenner for that Jenner D that was Inner Sphere, open to the Inner Sphere, but it was restricted, essentially representing the salvage that other factions may have had with the Jenner. So making a little bit less ubiquitous and a little bit more generalized to what you can deploy, and it gave me a chance to use that fantastic art by Florian. But yeah, we'll cover that in a separate video. For now, let's go ahead and move on. And next up, we have the Ostscout. All right, so speaking of the devil, we have Florian gracing this card with his art. Oddly, in the original TROs, there was some printing errors where a lot of the editions had the, I believe this is the Ostol in the page where it should be the Ostscout, and then the Ostscout didn't really even make it in at all because they had like the Ost War or something in place of the Ostol. But that's neither here nor there. We have the Ostscout here in our card. And so 1-3-1, another fast mech. It's got that cool jump ability, similar to the Spider. Really fun mech to use kind of in the tabletop. Very, very fast. Definitely don't engage with it. You need to use it for scouting and recon only. But yeah, so we got that one. I did add that 1T buyout for this mech. I don't know if I'll keep that. You know, maybe I'll drop the 1T, but it felt appropriate for the card when I was doing that. I also, because I was thinking that this mech was a lot more rare than it was, I actually put that bullet point, which for me represents unique, which in the original game was written kind of there and just taking up space that it didn't need to. So this is a far more elegant solution there, putting that bullet point. The Ostscout was, I think, maybe a little bit more in widespread use than I thought, and so I might change that to an R for restricted from that unique, but for now it's at unique, and you can only have one of these in your decks of custom cards. And next up, we have Kurita favorite. We have the Panther. All right, so Kurita Razahog keyword there. Yeah, so if you don't care about speed and you want a little bit more power and armor protection, this is definitely the way to go. So we're at 1-4. 2 attack, still at that 1, similar to the Wasp, Stinger, etc. A lot of these light mechs have that 1 cost, but it is the slowest other than the UrbanMech so far. And so, yeah, so you're getting a little bit of extra armor, a little bit extra attack. You still keep that free deploy and jump, but yeah, just a little bit slower, a little bit less options for either hunt down and for blocking anything that you're not guarding. But yeah. And that is actually it. So that is our 3025 Light Mechs. And so keeping this video at a decent watch time for you guys, I do want to share with you that Warhammer giveaway that I had offered. And I do have a couple extras. So if you happen to catch this video early and you're interested in one, just kind of ping me, preferably on Patreon, but you can ping me on probably Twitter or maybe Instagram or Facebook. Well, probably Facebook would probably be the easiest if you want a copy. Obviously, if you're watching this more than a couple weeks after it publishes, you have kind of missed the boat there. But don't worry, I will be offering more kind of giveaways, and I'll be announcing those first on my Patreon for kind of first come, first serve, and then on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, so that you guys can kind of enjoy some of these custom mechs as well. But yeah, let's grab that Warhammer. And before we sign off, I want to make sure to give a little preview for those out there that put in that request for this Warhammer giveaway. I'll be sending that out early next week. But yeah, here it is. A little tweak from the picture that I originally put out. It had a 3 base cost, but a lot more kind of discussion and review show that that definitely should be a 4 base cost mech. But everything else here is designed according to the original methods from the original release of the card game. So this does not follow the conventions of my custom set, mainly because my custom set, they're meant to be played with each other and not mixed with the original mechs from the game. Obviously, you guys don't have the benefit of having all those customs. This should be able to plug in right with your BattleTech TCG decks and enjoy it and play it. And so I built it according to that. But very cool card, art by Florian. A lot of the cards have Florian's artwork on there. He does a really great job. That's a little redo of the classic box art from the first, second, and third edition of BattleTech / Battle Droids. But yeah, very cool card. Looking forward to kind of hearing you guys' feedback once you get these, and you can kind of play with them on the table. You know, classic card back should fit right in with your deck. But that's it. There you have it, Light Mechs TRO 3025 from my custom BattleTech TCG set. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Throw some comments down below if you saw anything that I missed. If you have any suggestions about costing, if you saw any typos like that Wasp. Actually, after we filmed, I saw that the artist on the Panther was also wrong. But yeah, so ideally, I would like to get these out, you know, on a website or something, and basically open it up for the community to download and play test and give their input in terms of what they should be costed, if something needs to be tweaked here or there. But there you have it. So that's where it is now. Couple questions. No, you can't buy these. Eventually, they will be available for free, and in the meantime, I will have giveaways where I'll give them to people that kind of request through my various platforms online. But yeah, I don't own these. I can't make these profit off of them. So no, I can't sell them to you. But I'm happy to take your inputs, and certainly happy to kind of share, you know, this fun that I'm having in the BattleTech universe with you. And maybe if there's somebody out there that can help get a website that will allow these to be kind of presented conveniently for people to kind of download and play with at home, then that will expedite that process, because I'm definitely not a web designer or web developer. So, but in the meantime, I'll keep pumping out these videos and hopefully entertain some of you guys in your downtime. But this is Travis signing off for Renegade HPG. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll catch you on the next video. Bye.